Hey everyone, good morning again. First of all, big round of applause for Charles to have that confidence to, kind of pull up someone from the audience and just do the demo live. Amazing, right? Great stuff, great stuff. I'm really not going to do that though. Instead, I'm going to talk about food. Okay, I know we are nearing lunch. We have a break after this. How many of us order food online, right? Most of us do, right? How much time would that take for you? Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops? Yeah? Now imagine you're ordering food for the entire office. Yeah? How much of a hassle or a headache is that? Right now you have to look into allergies, you have to look into people's dietary preferences, you have to look into, say, the credibility of the vendor itself, like how good are they, what are the different products they use in their inventory and stuff like that. So what I like to see is that AI kind of works in kind of a similar fashion, right? So a lot of the talk that we're doing, a lot of the tools that we use, just ChatGPT or Geminis and stuff like that, are mostly on the personal AI front, right? It's very easy. It's just you pick whichever model you think works. The people who are great fans of Grok, the people who are great fans of Gemini, you use it, whatever works for you. It's easy and fast. You just implement it. You start putting prompts in it. You start working on it, right? Enterprise AI, though, it's not really that easy. Now, like I said, ordering food for the entire office. Now, you have to kind of look into data restrictions, compliance itself, right? What about how is the vendor handling your data? What is happening with the privacy part of it? Are they going to sell the data? How are they processing the data? What about the legal compliance? Are they part of all the say GDPR and the other compliances that your company has to adhere to as well, right? So a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. So for the right reasons, we've seen, as a company in this space, ourselves in the tech company, we've seen that AI adoption in the workplace has been quite slow. And we'd say for the right reasons, right? So before implementing it in a large scale, before kind of doing this for the entire office or thousands of people, there's some things that you have to really keep in mind. So probably by the end of the day today, when you're going back home, I would say if you're in great plans of implementing all of these AI stuff that we're talking about today, whether it's in these suite of products that we're talking about today or any of the other products, I'd say probably have these kind of these four kind of principles in mind before you or we kind of implement all of those in your company. Compliance is one. Like I said, how does the vendor process my data? What happens if the vendor kind of gets sold themselves into another company? What is the entire future of this particular company? Human intervention is another thing that I would probably say is probably the most important thing. What if these AI agents kind of take up and then do irreversible damage, right? What happens to that? Say it's ordering for thousands of inventory from a raw material supplier that you have, and you're supposed to end up paying for that, right? So what happens with stuff like that? What about privacy? Of course, in the UK, we speak about privacy a lot. How does the vendor handle my data and things like that? But that being said, we still believe AI is the best assistant a human can have. How many of you agree here? All of you? No, we're not going to lose our jobs right now. There's still time for that, right? So our approach, like I said, considering the previous slide that we spoke about, all the guardrails that we have to put in place, Zoho has been taking a very careful approach into this. So you would have seen this across all of the announcements that we made. And today we're going to talk about what we're doing in our probably the most important data of your company Ryzen, which is your emails, your chats, your video conferences, and all those, right? The most personal data of your company. So for this particular suite of apps, that's what I'm going to talk about today, we have a very careful approach into how we are implementing these for you. Number one is we are always going to give you option to choose between our Zoho's own LLM that we announced earlier yesterday, and also a third party that you want to probably already have or you like using, right? So we're always going to give all of these options that I'm going to show today. You can go to an admin dashboard and also decide whether you want to use Zoho's own LLM or use, say, OpenAI, Gemini, Anthropic, and the others. We're also going to give you option to choose your models. So that means if you have your own models within that is proprietary to your company, that's something that we've noticed very often from all of these conversations that we have across Zoholics, right? So people say, hey, I want these AI to generate emails or documents as to how my company talks. It has to be, trained on how my people have been talking earlier, how my people have been writing documents. It shouldn't be just some random person coming and typing emails. It has to adhere to everything that my company does. So we are always going to give you an option to kind of, if you have a self-tuned model that you have for yourself, you can attach that as part of Zoho's AI features as well. One of my favorite features down there says assist, don't bypass. So we are always going to come back to you and say that, hey, here's something that we did. The AI is not going to do irreversible damage. Like I said, human intervention is always going to be a thing. I'm going to show you how these kind of principles work into all of these features that we're going to talk about up next as well. So using all of these, we are announcing a few things across the suite of products, like I said, in the category across Zoho Mail, your WorkDrive, which is for file management, notes, workplace, and the others. But before I do that, I know it's a lot of load in the last couple of days. I want to understand how many of you have actually used any of these AI features across any of these apps. So we've been having our integration, our partnership with OpenAI for almost a year now in multiple apps. Has any of you used, just to read the room? Awesome. What have you used, sir?
Desk using it for generating assistance.
Got it.
Replies and reworking.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else here?
We use it for summarizing notes in CRM.
Awesome. Cool. So let me give you a quick recap of what we've done already. So starting with Zoho Mail, we've done the basics in terms of generative AI to give you probably start with generating email content. This is available in all of your accounts right now as well. You have to just bring your OpenAI key, associate that with Zoho's apps, and then start using it. So email generation, you enter a prompt, it generates a content for you. Same with summaries. My favorite feature is probably summaries as well, like you said, sir. You don't have to read through a lot of stuff. You just look into a paragraph. You can do that for email threads, which is probably the most important part. Instead of looking through, if you're coming back from a vacation, you don't have to look through all of these, dozens and dozens of threads for people having conversations on email or on chat as well. So if you have, if you're just joining a new channel on Zoho Cliq, instead of asking people, hey guys, what's going on here? You can actually just press on a button, see what's been discussed in the last 30 days, who decided what, and go ahead with that. In our Office suite, we've had generation there as well. You can generate documents on Zoho Writer or presentations. This is probably one of my favorite features as well. This presentation, though, is not by AI, it's been me. But you can also put in a, say you're going into a quick presentation with a client, you want to draw up a presentation about some comparison between your vendor and another vendor, you can actually put it in as a prompt there. It will generate a very quick presentation for you on which you can build on as well. On spreadsheets, we've done something very interesting. You can just actually take a picture of something out there, a paper out there, convert that into spreadsheets, and then start working on that immediately. If you're a designer, if you're a marketer, you work with a lot of designers, you want to convey your ideas a little better, you can actually generate your own images using Zoho WorkDrive and in Zoho's presentation tool as well. Talking about images, if you're also working with designers, say you're sending them a mock, so instead of depending on the designers to actually download or copy-paste all of those text into Figma, you can extract all of those text from an image, paste it back as a message on Zoho Cliq. All of these exist already. We've done the basics as well in terms of meetings, so you can also look into meetings and understand what's being decided instead of actually going through the entire meeting. Transcripts are generated already, keynotes are generated already as well. Zoho being Zoho, I wanted to put this as my final note as to what we've already done. We've also used something that not a lot of vendors have used, right? So we've used AI to help you edit PDFs as well. I'm not sure if all of you know this. Zoho Writer already has a PDF editor by default for free at no additional cost. What it does is that you can just import an existing PDF that you have, or even take a photo of a normal paper form that you have just lying around, take a photo of it, convert it into PDF, upload it back to Zoho Writer. It scans through all the available fields, converts those into fillable fields so that you can share it as a digital form. also edit existing PDFs. If you have an existing PDF, you just want to make quick edits. Instead of buying into a lot of expensive software, you can actually use this. So those are all in the past. Let me talk about what we've done upcoming in these products. So we are taking a small switch from our partnership with OpenAI. We're also trying to use our own LLM, Zoho's own LLM proprietary. For these, like I said, you'll still get options to choose whether you want to do Zoho's LLM or switch to an existing one. We're also doing some agentic stuff. So we're moving on from generative AI to actually putting all of these into a digital employee kind of a setup so that they can do all of these, come back to you for permissions and things like that. Let's start with Mail. With Mail, we're doing 3 different things. We are having agents to help you create emails, manage your inbox. I think a lot of you would love this, and also secure your inbox. What we've understood from our interactions yesterday that a lot of you are really, really interested about our security features and what Zoho does in terms of security and privacy. So I'm going to start for a change. I'm going to start from the left. Meet Thomas, OK? So Thomas is someone like you, so probably you would have met him in offices, a lot of people like you as well. His role here is that he's an IT administrator. Is supposed to take care of all the attacks, the socially engineered attacks that people do on your emails in terms of spam, phishing, spoofing. If you're there for one of my sessions yesterday, we spoke about spamming, spoofing, and all of those. So his role is really that. But what keeps him up at night is all of the different types of attacks there is, right? So there's phishing attacks. Sometimes people kind of, send fraudulent emails to get credentials from you. There's impersonation. Somebody acts as a CEO, sends an email, and things like that. There's so many different things that happens in the email world. And there are also something called a zero-day attacks, which is apart from this, is like an out-of-syllabus thing that happens apart from all of these known issues that's already there. If you want to take a photo, I'll just probably pause for a while. Yes. Awesome. Cool. To help people like Thomas or all of you taking photos here, we're announcing something called a threat mitigation agent within Zoho Mail. So it's going to be available by default, coming soon, probably by the end of this year. So what it does, really, is that it monitors, as usual. If you've used Zoho Mail, we do let these emails into your inboxes after, like, say, 25 different AI-based checks already. That's what we spoke about yesterday. But after that, we're also going to keep monitoring it for zero-day attacks, which are the out-of-syllabus stuff that it's talking about, right? If there are new threats that's coming up, Zoho Mail kind of matches into an online database and understands there's a new kind of a threat that's coming in. As soon as it identifies that, hey, there is an anomaly in your inbox that's probably a zero-day attack, it quickly identifies this and notifies this to a system admin and converts them as an incident. It reports that as an incident in your Zoho Mail dashboard. As soon as it does this, it automatically neutralizes this threat. So by neutralizing, what it means is that it moves these emails into a quarantine setup. Like I said, assist, don't bypass. We're never going to delete these emails without your permission. We're going to move into quarantine. And also, once you say, yeah, this is actual threat out there, we're going to repeat the same thing in the future as well so that you're kind of in the know about this in the future. Let me show a quick demo of this. Steve, can you switch it to it? Awesome. So this is the Zoho Mail interface. I'm not sure how many of you here are actively using Zoho Mail. This is basically how a normal inbox would look like. You have your emails, calendars, and the others here. Yeah, your calendar, tasks, and stuff like that. OK, so if you look into this email from Zia Security, this here. So this is an agent within this particular company. It says, hey, the system has identified a zero-hour threat that has kind of bypassed your initial protocols and things like that. It creates a quick incident summary as well, what kind of threat it is. So in this particular case, it's a zero-hour threat. It says it's affected a couple of people already, what was the email about and all that. If you're interested as an admin, you can click on View Incident Details. Yeah, so this is the cool part here. So it gives you a little timeline as to what happened, when, and all that. So it says, on July 5th, there was an email that was delivered. Zia has identified the file risk, and then a notification has to be sent to the super admin, which the mail that we just saw, right? So it gives you all of these important information. But here is the fun part. So it actually gives you the exact list of people who's been affected by this. So here are the people who've received these emails. There's 6 of them. Here are the good souls, the noble ones, who's actually reported these to the admin. Good job. And here are the naughty ones, right? He had actually downloaded the attachment from them. So now what do we do? Okay, so we go back to Zia. Let me just zoom out. Yeah. So what's the action taken by the agent? So this particular email has been removed from these email inboxes, and then, like I said, it is moved to quarantine. Like I said, quarantine, for those who are not into email systems a lot, is somewhere where it just, yeah, we've been through pandemic, so you know what quarantine is, right? So it is notified all the administrators. It is still scanning older emails. So that's another important thing as well. Once it is attached or it's identified that, hey, this is something issue, a new issue that's happened, it's not scanning just that particular email. It's also scanning all your older emails, right? So that it's to make sure that the same pattern doesn't repeat. So here is some AI-based suggestions. So you can create a security rule so that this kind of doesn't happen in the future. So this is also an AI-based, so this AI in an AI. So basically, you can do a natural language query here, just say create a rule to do this and all that, if it's coming from this particular IP address. You can also send those naughty ones a warning email. So basically, if I'm clicking on this, it generates, again, like I said, AI within an AI agent. It does multiple things. That's how it becomes an agent, right? So it now creates an email, like a blank email for you to kind of send it to those affected users. It says, yeah, there are 3 affected users here. What's the subject? And then it says, hey, we have detected that you have downloaded a file that is done. If you don't like the tone, you can actually regenerate it, and it's going to generate again using Gen AI from Zoho as well. And then you can send those emails. Neat, isn't it? So that's threat mitigation agent. We'll go back to the slides. Any questions here so far? Cool, OK. Let's move on. So from security, we'll go back to managing inbox. Let me introduce you to Lily. OK, here's another person. Probably someone like you as well. She's a product manager. She has a big launch coming ahead of her. She's very excited about that. But her problem really is that she goes back to her inbox. I'm pretty sure all of her inboxes look like this as well, where she's not really able to figure out what's going on, but she's not able to figure out the exact important emails that's there in her particular inbox. It's filled with marketing stuff, filled with newsletters, filled with all the nonsense that you can expect. So to help someone like Lily, what we're doing is we're coming up with something called a cleanup agent, right? I'm pretty sure all of us will start using it immediately as soon as we announce it. We are internally using this, and I've saved a lot of space with this as well. What we do here, again, is you see the thread, the kind of theme continues here. We keep scanning your inbox for any new stuff. Cleanup agent, in this particular scenario, what it does is that it identifies based on your behavior with a particular user. It says, hey, you've not been talking to or communicating with this particular person for a while, for more than 6 months now, but that person still keeps you sending emails. Do you really want to keep those in your inbox? Do you want to move them back to, say, a trash or something like that? Or there are a lot of, depending on the type, say, there's a newsletter or there's a marketing email that you keep receiving and you've never been opened. Zia kind of identifies all of these patterns within your inbox, and then it comes up with a suggestion plan. Like I said, assist, don't bypass. We're never going to delete your emails ever from your inbox without your consent. So it's going to come back to you with a plan that says, hey, user, hey, Rakeeb, here is a quick plan of what we thought are all the unnecessary stuff in your inbox. Do you want to delete them? I said, yes, do that. And then you can also do an agentic stuff that says it repeats the same thing. So now it has learned from your instructions that these are the kind of emails that you don't need. So it's going to repeat the same thing for you. Let me show that as a demo as well. Yes, Steve, let's move back. Thank you. So here, very soon, you're going to see this particular icon of Zia agents. If you're already on Zoho Mail, on your left panel, you're going to see this particular icon. As soon as you click on that, we'll neatly list all the available agents out here. I'm going to talk about some of these ahead as well. In this particular scenario, let's click on Cleanup Agent. It says, hey, Rebecca, did you tidy up in your email? Yes. So it's scanning your inbox. It automatically assigns you a particular health. So in this particular scenario, it says, hey, yeah, you're good. You're not bad. Your email is not that much of a hassle for you. But still, there are some proactive stuff you can do. Okay? You don't have to be on a very bad health to kind of get your medicines, right? So you can be precautionary about this as well. So here's some proactive stuff you can do. So let the agent take over. I click OK, do that. There you go. So it has actually come back with a list of internal and external folks that it thinks that you're not communicating enough. So it says, hey, do you want to delete their emails from the last 6 months forever and all those? You can do that as well. So you're not deleting their entire history. You say, just from this person, I don't work in that team anymore. I've moved in the last 6 months, probably just delete all of those emails after, in the last 6 months. You can also do external stuff. So 1 second, yeah. You can do external stuff like newsletters and things like that. And it says, hey, if it's good to go, I'm like, yes, do that. Done. So once you've enabled the agent to do this, it will now run in the background. It'll come back with you with an automated plan. And then when you say, yes, do that. In this particular case, I've told them to delete it immediately. But then once the same kind of a pattern repeats, it comes back to you saying, hey, there is another cleanup plan here. Do you want to do the same thing? And stuff like that. Awesome. So that's cleanup agent. Let's go back to the slides. Any questions here so far? Yes.
Can it deal with attachments? One of the problems with Zoho Mail, if you've been a user for a long, long time,
OK.
there's a problem with the historical email sitting on the server.
Got it.
And obviously you start running up data.
Yeah.
So can you configure it so it will deal with attachments, certain sizes, date they've been sitting on your
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's also part of what we do with the agent here. So the sizes that I showed includes the attachment sizes as well. So when I say this person has been sending you so much unwanted stuff, that also includes their attachment. So that's how the email size is kind of calculated. So for everyone in the room, he was asking whether we can also do the same thing for attachments and not just emails. So say, can I remove all of these attachments from the last 6 months and not just emails? So yeah, that's also will be part of the plan. Thank you. Probably end of this year. So we're going to go USDC first, and then we'll do UK or EUDC later in the year. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. Cool. Now let's move from managing inbox to creating your emails. So like I said, we already have a Gen AI-based email creation that kind of blankly creates. You give it a prompt, you kind of create something for you, as a boilerplate on which you can work on. But we're going to take a small twist on that. So instead of just writing an email content, Zoho Mail is now going to understand what it's just written, and then look for any other proactive measures that you can take in terms of reminders, date conflicts, and things like that, based on what you've just typed in. Okay, let me give you an example. You say, you wanna send an email to this admin team in your company that says, hey, there is a very important person coming to my office, set up the premises for lunch on the 28th of September or something like that. Once you send this email, what we'd usually think is that, yeah, the admin team is going to do their job, everything's going to happen, and suddenly on 27th, the one day before, you're kind of getting another email, or you already got a reply, but you didn't notice about it, is that, yeah, no, the lunch premises are not available, this is not part of a protocol, or something like that, some other message, and it didn't actually happen. So when you write an email like this, what Zoho Mail is going to do is that it's, because there's a date in it already, it says, hey, do you want to send up a follow-up email on the 27th, just because you've mentioned that there's an urgency here and all that. So it's going to read the email and understand what you've just written. Okay, let me show you a demo here as well. Steve, let's move to the demo. Thank you. Cool. So this is another agent. So we spoke about all the different agents here, right? So this is called a writing agent. So let me switch to that. I've already typed the prompt here. So we have some VIP guests coming to our office on the 28th of September. Write an email to the admin team requesting them to keep the premises ready, right? So as soon as I send this, it's going to generate a boilerplate email here as well. Based on our internet, it's going to take a little more time. There you go, right? So as usual, there's nothing extraordinary here. It's generated something out of your prompt. But something that's interesting that we've done with the agent here is that, hey, you've mentioned some dates here. Do you want to generate a follow-up email to check on the status of this on the preparation? Also, probably 1 or 2 days earlier. You're like, yeah, do that. Set up a reminder for me. Done, right? So now you actually have more control over the data that, the email that you've written. It also works on a reply context. Say, for example, let me go back to this. There you go. OK, so I have an email here that says, hey, Rebecca, I'm in the UK as well. Do you want to meet for this and all that? So as usual, you click on a button here that says Smart Reply. You're going to have that very soon. So the writing agent is setting up an email here. Let's give it some time. There you go, right? So it's like, yeah, any AI would do this. It says, yeah, I'm available on this particular date and all that. But because it's a contextually integrated AI, like you've seen with a lot of Zoho stuff, what we've done is we've integrated this with Zoho People and Zoho Calendar. So what it does, imagine you're on a vacation from this particular day, so you're out of office. It's already there on your Zoho People data. Or on Zoho Calendar, it says you're already equipped with something else, you're busy with something else. Remember the first email that I wrote was also on the 20th of September, right? So we have the VIP guests coming in. So what this particular email is asking is also on the same day. So it has noticed this particular date-time conflict, says, hey, there are some overlaps that you have here because you have something else on the same day. Do you want to generate another email with a different timeline? Like, OK, fine, let's do 12:30 to probably 6. I'm available between these slots. So again, it's going to generate an email back and then say, hey, yes, it's done. And then you can set up a reminder. And then you can send this back to insert to compose. And then you can send it back to that person as an email. So that's writing assistant. Let's get back to the demo, to the slides. Any questions here so far? Yes. Sorry, can we give a mic? Yeah.
Do you have to type in, or can you do by voice?
Not yet on voice, but that's a good suggestion. Yeah, we can keep that in mind. Any other questions? Awesome. Let's move on from Zoho Mail to another important part of this particular email and collaboration suite, which is Zoho WorkDrive. How many of you use WorkDrive already? So many of you, right? Nice. So with AI, it's actually taking a very transcendental kind of a move from what we've seen in terms of data management, structured data, and all that. So we're actually using AI to transform file storage. So otherwise, you would have known Zoho WorkDrive as something where you put in files in. I don't want it to do anything. I'm just dropping my files in so that I'm saving my space locally and things like that. It's actually using all of those intelligence that Zia has to transform from a file storage platform to a content intelligence platform, right? What that means is that basically it's going to turn all your unstructured data, so you don't have to anymore look into properly organizing data so that you can draw insights out of it. You just drop things to WorkDrive. It's going to understand what you just dropped, and it's going to create a collective, shareable kind of information or an insight for your organization, so that you can start ask questions to it. So with all of this, it's actually moving from something like a content management platform to a content intelligence platform. So I'm not sure if you've heard about the announcements that we've made. We've introduced Zia Hubs as part of Zoho WorkDrive quite recently. So what it does, basically, like I said, you can drop all your files, whether it's, you create a hub. So basically, it is a folder that you can kind of share with the rest of the team. You put in all your stuff there, so you have a sales hub. You put in all your sales reports, your charts, your projections, and things like that. Zia is going to take a few minutes to index or understand what you just dropped in. So it's going to read through all of those information. Again, privacy-oriented. We're not going to share this information with anybody else. Once that's indexed, you can start asking questions to Zia. Right? Hey, what about this? And based on the files that you just dropped in. So you're not anymore going through all of these files and things like that. So this is Ask Zia coming very contextually within WorkDrive. My favorite part here, it's not just this. Like I said, we're going to be very contextual. So it's going to come back to you. So after after answering your questions, it will also show you the exact chunks of where it has drawn this information from. Okay, let me give you some examples. Meet Philip here. Okay, so he's a support executive. He's just joined, the Zoho WorkDrive team. So for him, the difficulty here is that though he has a lot of training materials, a lot of handouts, a lot of training, in-person training that the team has given, he's still finding it a little difficult to exactly find the exact answers in terms of specifications, file storage limits, and all that within WorkDrive. So what he can do is create a Zia hub. So basically create a hub for support. Drop in everything that you have, right? So you have your help documents, your training materials, and things like that. Zia is going to index this. It says, hey, OK, once you've dropped in, it's going to understand what you just dropped in. This is the magical part. Now, he can start going and asking questions to it. It's like, hey, what are the upload limitations, for example, in WorkDrive? So based on all the documents that you just dropped in, it's going to understand, say, hey, these are the different limitations. This is what the exact specifications, right? Even better, it's going to come back to you and then give you the exact spots of where it is drawn, that document, or that information from, so that you can now share this document to your user. So you're not just deriving insights, but you're also giving those exact files that you can actually share with your user. Another example probably is Rani. So she's joined a company like Zoho. She's a junior developer. She has a lot of questions about, hey, what is your tech stack looking like? What is our priorities and things like that? So she can go to a town hall Zia hub, which is basically a hub with all the town hall recordings of the leadership team that's happened, whether it's audio, video, text, everything that is there. You can just drop it there. She can start asking questions like, what are our technical challenges in implementing AI or stuff like that? So based on a historical data, or not just from one particular town hall, but based on the historical data of what the leadership has spoken about AI, it kind of draws an answer itself. Even better, it's going to go back to here, Sridhar and our new CEO as well. So you can actually go back to the exact spots of where they've spoken about, right? It's not just one place. You see the little marks that says 1, 2, 3 in a while. Yeah, so it's going to spot the exact locations of where they've spoken about it, and you can actually hear it from the horse's mouth itself, right? So it's not just AI that you're listening to. You're actually listening to exact people, but this AI is making it very easy for you to spot those examples right there. Let's meet Kenny. Here's another example. So he's a sales executive. Again, he just is about to enter. He probably, let's say he sells cars and he's into used car business and things like that. So he's a sales executive. He's about to enter a meeting with the leadership, right? So as probably all of us have, we kind of get nervous as to what we can't expect what kind of questions probably a leadership might shoot in. So he's also nervous about it. What he can do is he created a central sales hub based on all the data that he has, whether it's market information, whether it's his own information, his whole sales targets and things like that. So as soon as his leadership starts asking him a question, his cheat book here is that he's also dropped the same question in Zia Hub. He says, hey, okay, which company sold the most cars this year? Based on all of those information, he's going to come back with the data here. He says, hey, no, but can you share any proof on that? Is there any written data on that? He's like, yes, of course. Here is a chart. So because it can source the exact chunks from where it is drawn, it actually comes back with a chart so that you can share it with the leadership as well. So that's Zia Hubs. It's basically a very, very interesting feature that we just started to roll into across the world. It'll probably come here very soon by the end of this year. It already supports all of these file formats, but we're working really, really hard. Where the magic really happens, we believe, is also when it supports our own Office Suite files, Zoho Writer, Zoho Sheet, and Zoho Show, so that your hub is automatically updated as soon as you make changes to those documents as well. So in real-time collaboration, as soon as you collaborate and sit on a document, we're going to work on that as well. So we are actively working on more file types, but we're also introducing in Zoho's own file types there. Great. Any questions on Zia Hubs before I move into Zoho Notebook? Yes, sir.
Is there any plan for Zia Hubs to be able to take actions on files, like if it detects a certain type of file, rename it, and stuff like that?
Not yet, but that's a good suggestion. Yes, we will take a note of that. Yeah, because Ask Zia is usually drawing insights. We're not getting into actions yet, but that's a good suggestion, yes. Any more? Yes. Here, down here, yeah.
Hi, does it recognize other languages? So if the file
Yes,
is
we
another
will
language-
eventually work on it. Right now, English, but yes, as soon as Zoho LLM starts, supporting other languages, we'll do that. But if you're working with, say, OpenAI and the others that already supports all of those languages, you can just link that up with Zia Hubs, and it will start working on other languages as well. Yeah. There you go. I'll just take one more question. Here. Yeah, that's a big box to run around, right? You can just
When you move stuff into the Zia hubs, is it taking a copy or is it just doing a link to the
Yes,
original
good question.
source?
I was just expecting why this question was not coming. So right now, I know it's not ideal. We are actually making a copy and creating into a different, say Zia Hubs is nothing but a team folder. I know most of you would be aware of what a team folder is. Eventually, what's going to happen is we're going to index all the team folders automatically. So right now, because it's an early stage, that's why we're asking you to create a new hub and put in stuff there. Eventually, as things get optimized, with Zia, LLM, and things like that, what's going to happen is we're going to automatically index all of your team folders by default, so that you don't have to copy it to another hub. So yeah, that's eventually the plan. Yes. Awesome. I'll probably take more questions after my session. We're running a little short of time. Let's move to Zoho Notebook. How many of you use Notebook here? Pretty little app. Awesome. Can some of you tell me what's the difference between note-taking and note-making? Yes. Stimulate your brain. Come on. I know y'all been sitting for so long. Anyone here? I'm sorry. Yes? Awesome. Yeah. Did you see my slide before? Exactly. I even have the same illustration. That's why I asked for this. Saw my slide. So note-taking is basically just the clerical way of things doing. You just attend a lecture, a seminar. You write down all of those, and then you take those notes. Note-making, on the other hand, is a little more creative process where you kind of join all of these little inferences that you've made out of all of these lectures and things like that, and you create one collective insight from all of those little notes. Yeah. So with AI, what we're doing is we are transforming Notebook from a note-taking tool to a note-making tool. So your AI is going to automatically sit in your meetings, whether it's a Zoho Cliq meeting, Zoho meeting, or say you're on a Microsoft site, Microsoft Teams or Zoom. It's going to come as an add-on as a user and sit in those meetings. It's going to automatically listen to what's happening in the meeting, transcribe those meetings, and come up with a neat little note automatically, right? So it's going to come up with action items, who are the participants, what was decided, also a recording of the meeting, and get it posted back to your Zoho Notebook notes automatically once the meeting is over. It's also going to send you an email that says, hey, here is the minutes of the meeting and things like that. It gets even interesting after here. So once that's done, it automatically also creates a mind map of what you just discussed. So this is the cool part here, right? So you can look into the exact portions of, say, in terms of sales strategy, what are the different things that we discussed? What are the sub-items that we discussed? And then you click on those, it's going to create another summary there, right in there as well. So that is, it's going to move from the note-taking aspect to the note-making aspect, and you can actually save a lot of time just doing all of those clerical stuff with Notebook. That's available for free for everyone on a Zoho One account already. We're going to come up with as an add-on plan. If you're not on Zoho One, just a free user on Zoho Notebook, it probably is available as an add-on for you as well. One final thing, if you're thinking, hey, Rakeeb, all of this is good. What about something that kind of connects all of these apps together, right? Say I want to do something like this on a Monday morning that says, fetch me recent emails from Zilker Travels, summarize them into a document, and then send this to my colleague, Paula, who just works on this every month. She has a meeting with these clients, quarterly, monthly, and things like that. This is something, a very, very normal thing that we'd expect, like a very mundane thing that we do on a Monday morning, right? So these are things, what can Zia help me with something like this? Because Zoho also has a lot of these parts already, right? So if you zoom in, Zia has to identify that your recent emails, there are multiple aspects here. So your recent emails has to come from Zoho Mail. Summarization, of course, is the Gen AI part there. It has to summarize all of those emails. It has to paste that content into a document, which has to be Zoho Writer, because it's in the Zoho interface. And also share it. When you say share, what does it mean? when you say share, is that a message, or is just that a WorkDrive share permission, things like that. So it's going to understand whether what you mean by share and also do both. So it's going to look into the access permissions, share it with this particular person, also send a message to Paula on chat saying, hey, here is a document that we just shared. So to do this, we're announcing something called Ask Zia for Zoho Workplace. If you're on the Zoho Workplace interface, you're going to get this very soon as well. What it does, again, I have the timeline here, is going to search across Zoho's apps by default. That's something that you can do already. But it's going to use AI to summarize all of this information at once so that, if you have 10 different emails, it summarizes them into a paragraph. It is also going to execute a chain of actions across all of these apps. So it's going to understand contextually. Like I said, we are a very contextual company as a whole. So it's going to understand contextually as to whether emails, what does an email look like? So what app has to come, it has to come from. So it's say emails has to come from Zoho Mail. Your files has to be, a document has to be created in WorkDrive, in WorkDrive also using Zoho Writer, and has to be shared as a message on chat. It's going to contextually understand all of these inferences. And finally, with your permission, like I said, assist, don't bypass, that principle applies here as well. It's going to share it with others on your permission. Let me show you a quick demo of this. I'm not as courageous as Charles before, but I'm going to try this live here as well. Let's switch to the demo, Steve. There you go. So you have this particular interface right here within Workplace where you can ask questions. I've already typed in the prompt here. It says, fetch me the same thing that we just discussed in the presentation. Fetch me emails from Zilka, summarize them, create a document, and share it with Paula. It's just a very normal thing I'd expect. So I'm going to ask Sia to do it. I really hope I had one more person here so that when it's loading, I can just talk to them. Cool. So it's going to take its sweet time to understand there you go. So it's searching for emails from Zilka. There you go. It's understood a lot of different emails has come from Zilka so far. Now it's summarizing them using Zoho's own LLM and using generative AI. It's creating a summary of all the emails in the last probably 10, 15 days and creating a nice little paragraph of their different action items, what's happened, and things like that. Let's give it some time. The network here isn't ideal. Just take them more time. There you go. And then says, hey, email 1 was this, email 2 was this, email 3 was this, and all that automatically. So the Zoho part works really well. So it has actually created a document. Let me see that document here. There you go. So it consists of all the different emails with different content. Email 1 was this and all that. So now you have a written copy of what's happened across all of these conversations. Now it says, hey, sharing to Cliq is in progress, but assist, don't bypass. It says, are you sharing with the exact Paula or not? This is something I'm pretty sure all of us have faced as well. If you have similar names of people with similar names in the company, you want to make sure it's the exact Paula that I'm talking about, because I just gave it the first name, right? I didn't even give it the second name. So it says, OK, probably I can choose a different Paula here, say Paula and all that. Yeah, see, there are different Paulas here. This is the one I want to share to. I'm going to exit here. I'm going to share this. Yes. And then comes in Zoho WorkDrive. They're like, whoa, how can you do all of this without my permission? They're like, yes, who can access this? OK, this permission, whoever I'm sharing with, Paula can do this. And they're like, yes, done. There you go. So now what you've done, you've written across Zoho Mail, then you've copied it to Zoho Writer, then you've used Zoho WorkDrive to share that particular document with that person, and then finally share it with Paula on a message. Let's go and see if that message is actually there. My pins. Where is Paula? Yeah, there you go. Yes, today this email has just come from. It is automatically shared. And how much time did that take for me? Probably 2-3 minutes. That's all. So that's kind of what Azia does in Workplace. Amazing, right? No? Nice. So that's about it. Let's go switch back to the yes. So if you're asking when is all of this available, do hold me accountable for this, you can come back to me and ask, or ask Sovish, he's the local person here, you can talk to him. So all of this is supposed to be available by the end of the year. Start slowly rolling this out across the globe. So in the EUDC, some of these are available at the end of the year. Like I said, Notebook AI is already available. If you want to use that on a Zoho One account, please talk to the Zoho One team. They can enable it for you as well. That's about it. Thank you so much. We have a coffee break now for, I'm supposing, 10 minutes. So yeah, let's this person come back after that. Thank you.